A talk program that's about more than just politics, because life is about more than just politics. It's Big Mornings on the Big AM1380.
It's 8:41. Good to have you along. Stan Milen coming after 9 o'clock this morning. Now, here's a good question. You get yourself a job. You've been looking for a job for a while. You've done plenty of networking in order to obtain that job. Next question is, should you continue that networking effort after you get the job? A lot of people wonder, maybe I shouldn't. People will be suspecting something, if you will, regarding my desire to stay on the job, whatever the case may be. Well, we've got somebody who can provide an answer to that, and it may not necessarily be the answer that you may be thinking of if you're thinking in that line, because she's a prominent thought leader on the impact of technology on society, work, and careers. She's been a scholar at Stanford University. She's held plenty of leadership positions at a number of high-tech companies. She's the author of 11 books, was an adjunct professor for 15 years teaching business and women's topics, and her latest book is called Employed for Life, 21st Century Career Trends. And she joins us right now because she's also on a corporate speaking tour when it comes to the topic of 21st century careers. And she joins us right now. We love having her on the show because she's a great guest. It gives us plenty of good information when it comes to job searches and just plain old job information. She joins us right now on Big Mornings in the Big AM 1380. Always good to welcome back Dr. Tracey Wilen. Dr. Tracey, great to have you with us again, ma'am.
Oh, thank you, Ted. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that is a good question. A lot of people do wonder about that, because, when it comes to contacting a lot of people after a job search, once you obtained a job, they're wondering, should I be doing that? Because if somebody finds out, especially in this day of social media, and say, for example, my boss is linked in with me and they end up finding out I'm contacting somebody else, would that cause peril with my job? What's the answer when it comes to that, Tracey?
Well, I think you are always looking for a job because most of the jobs, both internal and external to the company, are done through networking. I think the difference is that when you're looking for a job, you're very active, and when you have a job, you're doing more passive networking. So you're not going out and already asking people for your next job. It's much more passive. You're making connections, and I think you can do it very eloquently and successfully once you have a new job.
Yeah, and I think it comes in handy. Well, let's look at it this way. People are always networking. If you're in sales, you are constantly networking with people because you're trying to get clients, you're trying to get prospects for your work. And I think it's the same sort of situation when it comes to when you're in a particular field. Say, for example, in a field like you've been in for years, the high-tech field. You were with a number of companies out in California, and I'm thinking that you end up having some sort of communications anyway with a number of people with a number of different companies anyway, because you share something in common. So that's another reason why you want to keep networking, just to stay fresh in your field as well, right, Tracey?
Yes, and I think, here's a concept that a lot of people understand well is your first 100 days in a new job. When you join a company, your first 100 days is your time to meet people, find out about the job, understand who helps you get what done, and where your position and role is in the firm. And that involves a lot of networking. Your first 100 days, you should be out creating what I call informational interviews. Mm-hmm. These can be 20-minute phone calls with someone or a cup of coffee to find out and learn about the firm and their roles.
Yeah, so then that comes in handy because it really does build, because what we're doing is bridge building here when it comes to, your current employer, or for that matter, just people, like we mentioned before, in the field, because there are a number of different ways, especially in that 100 days, that to be able to network, because obviously it's a case where you don't want to come across, say, for example, as a climber, somebody who's just looking to use a particular job as basically one way to move on to another position. So when it comes to ways on how to network, not just during those 100 days, but even after those 100 days, what suggestions would you make when it comes to networking in kind of that low-level stealth way?
Sure. So first I would, as the new person, you do get this grace period. And as you walk into meetings, you can introduce yourself as the new person and you'd like to get to know people. And I think people are very kind to new people in companies. And you have a very short window to be able to do that. And that's where you can reach out on the teams. You might be joining teams. You might be in groups and you're the new face and you could just raise your hand and say, I'm new. I'd like to meet some people in the room, learn about what you do. Of course, there's always lunches and having, coffee meetings. And there's it's a very eloquent way for you to use that initial time, that grace period, and people will remember you if you approach them and act interested in what they do, because people love people who listen, and they'll remember them.
One question I do have for you, Tracey, about that is you're getting to know new people in your own company. Now that you're a new employee, you got that first 100 days we're talking about here. And I know that one of the things that we end up doing when we are out there as a sales representative doing networking is asking basically for leads, other people that particular, potential clients we talk to as a salesperson would know to help expand your base of sales along the way. And let's just face it, when we are out there, we are basically selling a product to anybody we meet, and that is ourselves. So when it comes to that, when it comes to co-workers and asking them about, other people that might be able to help, might be able to provide insight that maybe, the person you're talking to might not have, or for that matter, just to expand your base of knowledge when it comes to the particular field you're employed in. Is that fair game? Is that something that you would suggest when it comes to fellow employees as well?
Yeah, so, the way to do it would be to sit down with your manager and say, can you help me build a list of people that I should get to know in the organization and also outside of the organization to help me develop my own path so that I can learn quickly and ramp up very fast on this new job. And I think if you involve your management and you involve other people, they feel like they're part of, developing you. It's really, developing their employees. And it doesn't have this, I need a lead, I want to figure out, where the holes are in the organization to get a new job. It's more of, I want to be able to maneuver my way around the organization quickly. Can you help me? And I would also ask your manager, in a very nice way to say, not only within, my peer set, but also, are there other executives that are influential to my success in the company that I should reach out to with your help so that they are aware that I'm a new person on your team and that, I'm here to support you.
Dr. Tracey Wilen talking with us about networking after you get the job on Big Mornings and the Big AM 1380. And, that makes a lot of sense, Tracey, because let's face it, the manager is probably the person who brought you on board. The manager wants to see you grow. So really asking your manager or managers in your company to, for connections when it comes to people they know only makes sense, because I'm thinking they want you to be a better worker, and the more information you have as a worker, the better worker you can probably become. So this is probably something that management should encourage, right?
Yes. In fact, the tide has shifted a little bit. Managers are less hands-on of telling you what to do, but rather more helping you find your path by laying the road for you, whether it's contacts or information, so that you can become more of the CEO, really, of your own job, more entrepreneurial about how you're going to pursue your work. And I think this is a shift in the workforce that maybe some people have grasped onto, but maybe others haven't. A lot of times people wait for their manager to tell them what to do, and it's changed today. You really need to set the path and take ownership of your job.
And I think the key is, too, one of the important things when you're doing something like this, you have to do it, and basically do it not just in a matter that, I don't know if careful would be the word to use, but positive would probably be the best word to use. Doing it in a positive method. Would you agree with that?
Yes, attitude is everything when you join a firm. And I think being very positive and upbeat about how you're going to contribute to the firm is all just part of the process of joining, in a new job. So being very positive, coming across as a team player, saying yes, acting interested, being excited about the job are all pieces of the pie today that people have to think about when they're joining new work. And I'll make a comment because you and I have talked about older workers and younger workers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, as you talk to managers, they overlook age if you come in with a positive, can-do, exciting attitude, whether you're a young manager managing older people or an older manager managing young people. It's very contagious to be happy and excited about coming to work.
Well, I'll keep that in mind as I age, Tracey. Thank you for that piece of advice. It comes in very handy. Well, another thing, too, with a lot of people, most people these days are getting those connections when it comes to networking to get that next job through social media. And I think even afterwards, that's even more of an important tool. But now when it comes to using the social media, is that something you have to use discretion on when it comes to that, Tracey?
You do, and so the first thing I encourage people to is don't immediately change your LinkedIn until you're in the job for at least a few weeks, and you're sure that nothing's going to change. Because a lot of people jump in and update their LinkedIn profile. Let it lie. People are not looking at your LinkedIn every day. Once you're on board, then I would update the LinkedIn profile, look at other LinkedIn profiles, maybe if your manager or other people in the firm have done it very well. See if they use certain corporate lines or company logos, how are they identifying with the firm? I think you can update your Facebook profile in the same way. Many people actually align their Facebook, their Twitter, and their LinkedIn profiles to all have the same message. Or you may choose to only have one professional profile, which is just your LinkedIn, because the Twitter accounts and your Snapchats and your Facebook is all personal.
Right.
So I think that's something, you're letting people know you've joined a new firm. Don't do it too soon, but eventually transition over.
Right. Now, you mentioned the word professional, too, Tracey, and I think another key element for a lot of people has to do with joining professional associations, which I know you think is an important aspect of being a professional.
Yes, and a lot of people don't realize the power of professional associations, both while you're working and while you're looking for work. Professional associations are basically groups of people getting together in the same industry, whether it's marketing or technology or PR. You have a membership. You have regular meetings. It might be once a month. You have some very large ones actually have local chapters. It can be an education process where they have speakers. It could be a way to network other people in industry. Most of the time, this is where you can find leads or opportunities on other jobs at other companies. And it's also a way for you as representing your new firm to represent them at the professional associations. Many employers look very positively. For example, SHRM and ATD are very big HR professional associations, and most firms would like to have their executives participate in that because that is the go-to place for HR information.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying, Tracey, is once you end up getting that job, don't let your networking efforts just vegetate. You just keep them up, keep them vital, keep them growing, and then when you end up doing that, you'll grow career-wise as well, correct?
That's right. Always be active and even socialize, whether it's in sales, like you said, and you're on the plane a lot. You'd be amazed at how many connections are made in airports, flying, at restaurants, and retail stores. And so it's just kind of chatting up and getting to know people because at the end of the day, Ted, people hire people.
Yeah. Well, what's the most unusual place you've ended up running into a networking connection, just out of curiosity, Tracey?
Oh, I remember vividly. It was last year. I was in Beverly Hills on a Christmas sort of shopping trip. I was standing in line. The lines were very long. And a woman turned around to me and started chatting with me and asked me what I did. And I said, well, actually, I'm from the Bay Area. I live in Silicon Valley. And she handed me her business card and said, I am a technology recruiter. Are you looking for a job or know anyone looking for a job? And I'd like to help. And I was pretty surprised at how bold she was, but I really appreciated that she turned around and handed me a card and said, if you ever need a technology job, I'm here.
So basically what Tracey is saying, always be prepared to be a connection, a networking connection, right?
That's right, because you just never know. You never know. I never expected to be Christmas time in a retail store in Beverly Hills having a job connection made, and I thought that was pretty bold of her and pretty clever.
I'd say Dr. Tracey Wilen. Yeah, her latest book is Employed for Life, 21st Century Career Trends. And you got plenty of great advice, too. And she's joining us on Big Mornings in the Big AM 1380. And you got plenty of great advice as well as plenty more on your website, right, Tracey?
Yes, my website is TraceyWilen.com, which is TraceyWilen.com. And I am on Facebook as Dr. Tracey Wilen, and on Twitter is @TraceyWilen.
So lots of
on LinkedIn.
That's because being on social media is important with this very topic we're talking about, too. Tracey, it's always good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it.